Amitabh, fellow members of the panelists and friends. Thank you very much, Sambodhi, for giving this opportunity. Yesterday when Vijay called me trying to give me a briefing, I said, who is the moderator? He said, Amitabh. Then I said, stop briefing. He will have his own surprise. He will certainly come with the teaser. So that's what I think what he put is a very important framework. How do we see the role of the civil society and what kind of the influence that we're doing both at the policy and practice and opportunities and challenges. I may not take all the three, but perhaps I would like to touch base one or two aspects. And I'm also wearing the hat of a dual hat, so that's what he said. We don't know what it is. I'm also leading the program, the implementation of the SPACS program, which is a DFID initiative. Apart from that, I also used to wear the hat of the Christian Aid, but I no longer do that. But the experiences, what I'm going to bring is a combined experiences of working on one of the two civil society platforms, working with one as a Christian Aid, very invisible, behind the screen, helping the civil society to take the leadership and define what the destiny they want to do. On the other hand, you have a well-defined program, outcomes, everything is what Yogesh talked about, it, results, everything is predetermined and looking forward to the partnership and implementation. I have seen both the spectrum, so therefore I could be a devil as well as an angel, the way you look at it. But I think the whole aspect of recently when we concluded on the 31st March, we had a series of engagement across all the 7 states. How do we conclude, inform the communities that the program is concluding? Wonderful journey of 5 years. So the whole deliberation is how do you pitch it? It's a concluding meeting, workshop. But after some time we realized, after going through the one session, we realized it's no longer just a conclusion of a program. It's a more of a celebrating the inclusion. That's how we changed the whole, the closure events as an inclusion utsav. The reason which I try to show the Kausalya story, why I think that this was triggered when Yogesh is talking about community-based leadership. I wish that last 30 seconds of clip was there, where you could see a member from the socially excluded community who is very confidently talking. That particular woman, she's a member of a school management committee in UP. When we recently met, when she was talking about her journey through the PACS, even though she's a member of the school management committee, I thought she was talking about the school management, how it is improved, what kind of work. Leave alone, maybe 1 minute she talked about it, but the remaining 15 minutes she talked about the whole aspect of right from the violence against a woman, caste-based atrocities, from the canal, NREGA, roads, school, Anganwadi, everything, the long list of things, how she's engaging on those issues. To be honest with you, PACS program has not given this long list to be worked on it. But what it triggered me is the whole process of empowerment is very, very crucial. The moment you give the socially excluded, the oppressed, the voiceless, the moment they realize what their life is, what their rights, and what are the entitlements, the moment they know how they can achieve it, I think that's the sustainability that we are talking about. So you can have a highly result-oriented framework program, but I think we should not be losing the direction in the run-up to the numbers. Yes, those numbers is not an issue that need to be in terms of upward as well as the downward accountability that need to be achieved. But I think the journey of the civil society will not stop with the numbers. How do you put a value to the whole issue of question of dignity, the issues of justice? So for me, the role of the civil society more in terms of looking at, even though civil society is too broad, but certainly in a way we could be, I would like to refer to more in terms of the NGOs and also as a voluntary sector. It comes with, there is a story behind. Touch any organization, there is a strong story why they started that organization. There is a strong dedicated leadership and there is a strong vision to do that. That's what actually makes the civil society much more unique than any other purpose where you have other various organizations there in guise of by virtue of its registration. So therefore, but apart from that, the civil society is not as open as like that. There is a system of governance, there is a formal process in which we work. But for me, the role I see is more of a catalyst for change. How it will. It is more in terms of amplifying the voices of the issues they are going to work, whether the issue of sexuality, is issue of HIV, or issue of human rights, or issue of manual scavenging. I think what this organization is not only acting as a catalyst for change, but amplifying those voices. At times, they engage with the state when there is an opportunity. If there is no opportunity, if the state is not listening, they do agitate, and they are quite argumentative. That's the uniqueness. That's the uniqueness of the civil society which we put. It is also resonate with what Ambedkar also given the mandate to the people: educate, organize, and agitate. If you put it together somewhere, you could see that this is where it's not working for the self, but more in terms of working for the cause they believe in and the communities in and around what they are going to look at it. That includes policy, that includes as well as the practices. One put such an example when I look at it, at least the example of manual scavenging. The issue is very crucial. It touches the sensitive nerve of each one of us. Untouchability is practiced, is abolished, and there is a legislation which prohibited the continuation of the dry latrines. But when after 10 years of law, when the people started off asking, how come manual scavenging still practiced in this country, it was a very inconvenient question to ask. People at the power, they felt it, no, it's no longer exist. So finally, the civil society, as a Safai Karmachari Andolan, along with few other organizations like Garima Abhiyan and many people, they filed a petition in the Supreme Court and asking it still there. In response to that, several states filed saying that the manual scavenging was stopped because there was a legislation come into force. Then it became the role of the civil society to prove that this practice exists. How come a complainant became a burden of proving the whole issue? So it took about 5 to 6 years for this organization to go around the country, take the evidences of where the dry latrine exists, videography, photography, interviews, everything, and come back. And after 7, 8 years of journey, then we'll say that, oh, okay, it exists. Now we are trying to do the new legislation comes. Yes, of course, it was demanded by the communities for a complete prohibition of dry latrines. But the issue, what I'm trying to put it is, it may be very inconvenient to ask, very difficult question to ask, which is very much linked to the dehumanizing practice. It associated with the caste. 98% of the manual scavengers are Dalit women. They also suffer from the extreme violence. But yet, we have an extreme progress and all the economy, everything. But still, we also have this practice is very much alive before our eyes. So therefore, I think this is where I could see the role of the civil society, not only just amplifying the issues, but looking towards the solution. Of course, we also have a positive stories of how the same movement worked in collaboration with the state, not only bringing about the new law, but also trying to implement and bring some kind of a issue of rehabilitation, looking into some of the solution. So for me, the role of the civil society more in terms of looking how we turn the hope into an action. And actions leading to entitlements. And sometimes entitlement seems to be quite good, but it doesn't have any accountability. Then the movement realized that, and it is also converted those entitlements into rights. All the example, right? It is a Forest Right Act, it is an issue of Prevention of Atrocities Act, or it is an NREG, a new millennium thing. At least last 10 years, we have seen a change where the civil society worked in collaboration with several other players and pushed the state to recognize these entitlements into a rights and making the rights as an opportunity to press for the whole issue of strengthening the good governance, transparency, and addressing the issues of equity, the justice, and the dignity. So in that sense, if you see the whole theory of change, it's more of empowerment, working on the issues of justice, promoting dignity, and strengthening the good governance. If this is what the role of the civil society, I don't think we need to argue is there is a need for it and what they do. I think the rest we'll take up during the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Anand. Let me try and build on what Anand has said, but let me zoom out and take a broader canvas. The World Bank in 2011 came up with a report which said that Tunisia and Egypt are the best governed state in that region. And within 2 weeks, the Arab Spring happened. And the World Bank, which has the best of the policy people who really crunch numbers all the time, but within 2 weeks, the entire governance that we were talking about crumbled. And we were not really able to understand what was happening, certainly not the economist or the social scientist sitting at the bank. All of us who were trying to evaluate what's happening, we were not able to get the sense of the anger that was there in Egypt and Tunisia. What I would say is, what I want to bring in this story, because this is an impact conversation, but also because I think that civil society, unfortunately, also was left behind the curve, and even the organized civil society. And I do a lot of global work with all our friends who are sitting here. We were also not aware of what was happening in Egypt or in that entire region. It just erupted. The citizens' anger completely erupted. And I would say the last few years have been about a narrative of anger globally. And I talk of that narrative of anger just to give you some examples. I talked of the Arab Spring. Let me also talk of the Occupy movement, a powerful movement to actually go and occupy the Wall Street. Let me also talk about within, as in this city itself, somewhere very close, Ramlila Maidan, you saw the anti-corruption movement. You also saw the anti-rape movement. And what, as civil society, I thought these were fantastic movements in articulating people's anger, in people getting mobilized. But what I thought was sad for civil society, that the organized civil society was really missing from this. It was not able to provide the support that these campaigns and these movements needed. I think that that's a critical question. I think we need to introspect. It's a very big question, and I've been constantly thinking about why this happened. Why were we left so behind the curve? Few of the things that, let me start by saying, one, I would say, is that we've been losing what is seen as the comparative advantage of civil society. And I'll come back to the role. The comparative advantage is our trust bonds with the communities, with people. And that, I think, has actually shrunk in civil society. And I'm also, just to borrow from what our friends have said, I'm still focusing on the more organized civil society. And there the trust bonds have kind of moved. There is a significant shift towards what is called NGOization, which is more trying to professionalize everything and take away from your grassroots action, grassroots trust building, community organizing and mobilizing. So that's taken away a lot. And the second is this big pull, largely I would say pushed by the donors, but also because of the class character of the leadership of NGOs, the way it's changed. Big pull towards the policy circles. What, you can actually call it the policy circus also, not necessarily the circles, but there's a complete pull. We're all getting pushed constantly to talk about policies. And I think there I want to connect back with what Vijay Mahajan said this morning. And if somebody like Vijay Mahajan says this, I think we need to really sit back and think and reflect. Somebody who's been absolutely at the cutting edge of civil society work, not just civil society work, of also policy changes. He's been an absolute guru of the microfinance, then of the banking for the poor, and he says, I really don't know what we have done. And that's where I think my worry is that we were constantly getting sucked into more and more policy, leaving aside what is our real role. So in terms of the real role, so I would say that the big question for us is, even today we need to ask, what is our goal? And I think Neeraj was kind of talking about the difference to power, asking inconvenient questions. And the other, which is equally important, which we have certainly further truncated, is the idea of dreaming, of creating alternatives, of doing things differently. And civil society's primary job is also to nurture alternatives. These are two roles. If we start doing them, I think a lot of our energies will start coming back. Having said this, let me also say, and I am trying to really use less time, but I would say that we need to think of this entire civil society conversation in the framework of democracy and not in the framework of development and policy. And that's what we do. As in, even today, when you look at the introduction to this session, it's still in the framework of policy and development. Civil society is not about policy and development, it is about politics. And I would really say, urge all of us to take this to heart. And again connect back, as I was deeply shaken by what Vijay has said, that because we failed in rearranging power, the way power is distributed in society, and that's what Oxfam's film was saying, we have failed in our job. We've got sucked into thinking policies will change things. Policies have not changed things, particularly for the most poor, for the most excluded. We've always seen a critique of the same kind of policies 10 years down the line. You start saying, oh, there's everything wrong with this policy. Let's move on to a new flavor of the decade. It's really about rearranging power. It's about the messiness of politics. Civil society is about the messiness of politics. How does this messiness of politics, of rearranging power, in an extremely complex social system, in the social structure, get evaluated for impact, is a question I'll leave to Dharmendra and Sambodhi. But I do need answers. I seriously need answers for you. Help us think through that. And this needs to also be communicated to the donors who are doing a huge disservice. In a way, we are, and I don't mind taking names. I work very closely with Gates. They're one of our big partners. But I think this whole idea of almost from Seattle knowing what needs to be done in Burhanpur is hugely problematic. And I think these big debates that are happening even now are critical. Do have a look at a long essay which the Ford Foundation's new president has written, where he's saying that we've made big mistakes in the last decade. We need to go back to trusting people and investing in ideas and institutions, and not in lock frames, and not in the numbers that we have talked of. So there are multiple challenges. I've talked of some of those challenges. The shrinking political space is also a big challenge. It's a reality globally, because the political system has lost legitimacy. It's civil society which is still challenging the political structures and the political systems. And therefore, the pushback from the political system is going to continue. And that's the shrinking space where we're working. And obviously, the complete fundamentalism of neoliberalism, which is leaving very little spaces for alternative ideas that I was talking of. The alternative idea of joint forest management, the alternative idea of barefoot doctors, the alternative idea of livelihood. These are, you have very little spaces for that. So I think these are huge challenges, but just to end, I would say that I also see that same anger that I started with as a huge opportunity. We need to recognize that we need to connect with it and not work in our own ivory towers. Civil society is also sitting in our ivory towers, including Lalit. We need to get out of it, connect with that anger, and be far more humble in serving the people and not saying that we have the solutions. Thank you.
Okay, so the floor is open for questions and comments. I think we've done reasonably well on time. We did start almost 40 minutes late. So I think maybe maximum 10 minutes. Is that all right, Damir? Yeah, it's 6:30, so 10 minutes, all right. So any questions, comments, most welcome. Just introduce yourself, 1 and 2 there.
Yeah,
Okay, 3. If I can see hands, 4, but I would request that the mic should go as I say.
Sure.
Yeah, so that's 4. Anyone else? I've seen only men, and men are sitting on the panel also, so. Okay, so can we start with Rahul?
Thanks, Amitabh. So I have two questions, if the panel doesn't mind, and the audience also. One is you spoke at least a couple of times about the shrinking space over the last few years for the civil society. So what I would like to, what I would like the panel or you to emphasize upon is, so where is the space actually going to? Is it being taken over by the governments or the corporates? Is the media somewhere there? So where is that going to? So that gives us a certain sense of direction. The other thing also is related in a similar manner, but not entirely. The other thing is the civil society has been under pressure for a while now into being social enterprises or working in that manner, which in softer words means the civil society organizations should be able to either make money or earn profit or be able to generate money in a way that they become self-reliant or sustainable. So what kind of pressures does it put, and how should the civil society in such a scenario, kind of change or mold or confront? Thanks.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm the main from Sambodi. I'll not be asking anything on measurement. I'm not doing measurement. But it's like two things. Like when we talk about SDGs, we talk about the role of the policy, the role of the private sector, and the role of the society.